Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny, adventurers. I'm your guide, Jason. Today, we turn our attention to the mythical horsemen of Greek mythology. And no, I'm not talking about the centaur. That's right, they had a second race of horsemen hidden in their mythology. The Ipotanes, also called the Hippotanes, comes from Greek mythology. Their name is said to come from either the word for horse or knight, depending on the translation. And there's a bit of divide according to the sources. Some claim that they go clear back to antiquity, but others claim that they are a more recent addition to the catalogue of mythical creatures, as the Travels of Sir John Mandeville written in 1356. So sadly, there's a fair bit of division on these topics, and this includes my books. Half say one thing, and half say the other. So, if you come across the same schism, that is what is going on. The Ipotanes are half human and half horse, but not like the centaur. They have the upper body of a human, but the lower half of a horse, but only 2 legs, unlike the centaur which has 4. They are also said to have a horse's mane and ears. Generally, they are said to be faster and more agile than humans. In one source said that they are good climbers, but that seems to rely more on upper body strength than their legs. Mind you, in Philippine mythology there is a horseman called the Tikbalong, which can climb trees very well. Now, they're often compared to satyrs, which are half goat and half human. And this is actually part of why there is a division on when these horsemen appeared in mythology. Most sources do agree that the Ipotanes also tended to hang out with the god of wine and debauchery, Dionysus. And amongst his followers were satyrs who partook in his rambunctious celebrations and revelries. But there is one figure among them which does stand out, Silenus. He is said to be amongst Dionysus' oldest followers, and helped care for him as a child. And here is the issue. Some sources claim that Silenus wasn't a satyr, but was in fact an Ipotane. Now, this is what has led to some of the division in the origins of the Ipotane, since both satyrs and Ipotane are said to serve and run with Dionysus. And it's easy to see how 2 races of half human, half ungulates can quickly get mixed up and blend into a single idea. And their behaviors are also split. In the Travels of Sir John Mandeville, they are said to be violent and aggressive, and also found living in the Middle East, namely around Iran. But when they are with Dionysus, they are drunk and party animals. And yet others say that they are gentle, but can be territorial. And this comes along when you have multiple sources. Another talks about them possessing great wisdom and knowledge, but are difficult to get them to share it. And this goes right back to Silenus, who was wise, but was difficult to share things with, partially due to being heavily and perpetually drunk. There is one theory which I have come across when researching this mythical creature. And there is an idea where originally there was just the Ipotane, and no centaurs or satyrs. But eventually the Ipotane divided and became the centaurs we know today, and the satyrs. And I can see how this happened. Both centaurs and satyrs are similar in concept, and the Ipotane is a solid middle ground of the 2. As to why they would split, that is actually interesting. If you watch my satyr video, you will know that they are the personification of sex, drugs, and music. Basically, living in an eternal frat party. They are degenerates, and very unsavory to be sure. But the centaurs are radically different, more often portrayed as noble warriors with strong values and honor. So having one group become the more distasteful group, and the other more noble warriors is an honest division. And since horses were generally seen as a more noble and valuable, so the honorable side became the centaurs, with a more animalistic and vile version being tied with a goat. Now, their biology is pretty simple. They have a human torso, and switching out the legs of a horse. But there is an issue. Horse legs are designed for 4 legs, and not 2 like what we have here. This will throw off its balance, but can be corrected with a few simple tricks. The first simply being to rework the hip alignment and tail to promote the balance system. I do love it when someone adds a logical addition to a mythical creature's anatomy. Yes, adding a tail is good for promoting balance and is smart. But there was mentioning of them being skilled climbers. Horse hooves are not well designed for climbing. But we could make a small modification to them to mimic that of a goat. They have a softer, more rubber-like section on the inside and the middle which helps with grip. We could copy this to help provide for them. If not, their climbing will mostly just be raw upper body strength. But that is possible if you got enough muscle, and there are plenty of climbers that do exactly that, but not ideal. As to their phylogeny, one of their closest relatives is likely things like the Tikbalong, due to the matching lower body, but a different head. Alternatively, the satyr and minotaur are likely good matches. The question on the center, of course, would be regarding having 6-limbed versions versus 4, and that would actually be a more involved evolutionary change than the head and hoof shape. Outside of that, they are pretty simple. Sadly, there isn't too much to them in mythology, and much of what we do have is often mixed with the satyrs. Perhaps some of what has been known about them has been lost due to the confusion with satyrs and more to history. So, how do we battle an Ipotane? Well, for the most part, they are human, and we can fight accordingly. They are smart enough to use weapons and armor, so be ready for that. Yet, they are said to be faster than humans with superior agility. For that, I would choose a spear for them to use. It would take advantage of a charging attack. And for you, I would want a shield, if not plate armor. But you can use other kinds of armor depending on its choice in armaments. If it does charge you, a spear would offer reach, and is probably going to be your best offensive option, if not a bow and arrow should work. But it can stand and fight, and thus force you into a clash of swords. For the most part, they are similar to fighting another human. Yet, there are a few other factors to address. For those with Dionysus, they are likely going to be intoxicated, and that might make them less effective on the battlefield. Yet, there are other descriptions, including being territorial and gentle. If they are that way, then you should be safe from their wrath, so long as you keep your distance. Now, they are said to have wisdom, and a few go so far as to mention knowledge of the arcane. So, there is a chance that they will have some form of magic. Plan accordingly. One danger you will be facing is that there seems to be a higher chance of them operating in groups. This will quickly escalate the difficulty. But if you are an adventurer, you got a party of your own, don't you? I mean, what kind of adventurer goes into battle all alone? And that brings up another threat that you'll have to deal with. They are said to be tied to Dionysus, a god. One who is often portrayed as joyful and drunk, but he is also a very violent and vicious god, who has instigated multiple wars. Amongst his many actions, it includes madness and insanity, not just in his followers, but others around him. So it could be possible Dionysus could cause the Ipotane to enter a berserker rage. That would likely boost their combat potential and make the situation much more difficult. Of course, I'm not sure how Dionysus would act to you harming one of his followers. He is well known to fall into violent rages for being insulted, and even cause a whole village to rip their loved ones apart. Depending on how their hooves are, they may struggle with certain kinds of terrain. Heavy ice or steep terrain might be difficult for them to handle. If you have a spell to create such a terrain, it will aid you in the battle. The Ipotane is an odd foe. They aren't that different from other mythical creatures like the satyr. While they're said to be faster and more agile, they are overall very similar to humans, and that is why I'm going to give them a 3 or 10 for difficulty. But that doesn't mean that they will be easy to deal with. You will need to stay on your guard and be ready for just about anything. And that includes divine intervention, turning the fight against you. If you best the Ipotane, you get the usual stuff, such as meat and hide. Now, I'll let you handle the ethical debate about eating such a creature, but it is possible. Yet, there are plenty of reasons not to. They are said to know great wisdom and arcane potential, and you can learn it from them, if you can get them to open up. As to how, that is the question. When they are associated with Dionysus, they are usually drunk and partying, so good luck making any sense out of their drunken rambles. But if you can, there's plenty to learn. On the high end, that would include magic and philosophy. And I'm sure one of those would be useful to you, adventurer. And that is something you can gain if you are willing to converse. Yet, what if they joined your party? That is definitely a possibility. They are intelligent to be sure and can converse, and they should be equal to yourself. The one issue could come with their drinking. Of course, if they are wise, they would know when and how to ration their drinking. But hey, everyone has issues, right? So, what do you think about the second Horsemen of Greek mythology? There likely has been a lot of crossing over and mixing with centaurs and satyrs through the ages, which has resulted in some of the confusion of them, which is probably why they are a lesser known mythical creature. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next time. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.